All right, let's check out your Chapter 1 homework in statistics. This is problem number 1. And in problem number 1, they just want you to identify what they call the level of measurement. And so you can see as the first step, we've got student IQ ratings. They're going to call that interval because essentially the IQ ratings is a constant size. There's no meaningful 0 point. They always will mention this meaningful 0 point. If it had that, then it would possibly be ratio. But in this case, you're just going to say it's interval. The distance students travel to class, because that does have a significant 0 point and the distances are meaningful, they're going to call that ratio. Jerseys of a soccer team, that's just going to be nominal. There's no other meaning than the label. Same thing with date of birth, nominal. Academic class, that's going to be what they call ordinal. The differences in the group are not the same, so that's ordinal. And then finally, the number of hours you study per week, that does have a 0 point. And so the differences are meaningful, so they're going to call that ratio. Alrighty, that's going to be some comments on the first one. Let's check out the second one. And same thing. Again, they want you to describe these levels of measurement. So you got the number of hits on their website between 8 and 9. They're going to call that ratio. Ratio again has a significant 0 point, and the ratio between the numbers are meaningful. So ratio. On the second one, excuse me, at the departments such as food and drink, politics, foreign policy, that's just nominal. There's no meaning other than their identification. The number of weekly hits on the club's ads website, that's the same as the first one, that's ratio. And then finally, the number of years each employee has been employed with the state, again, that has a 0 point. So that's going to also be ratio. All right, let's go to the third one. On this one, we're going to look at the difference between a sample and a population. So the first one says participants in a study. Of course, that's going to be a sample. That's a subset of the population. The drivers who received a speeding ticket in Kansas City last month. In this case, we're talking about the people in the population of the entire group. So that's going to be population. Letter C, people on welfare in Cook County. That's the same. That's everybody in Cook County. So that's going to be the population. And then finally, the 30 stocks that make up the Dow Jones, where there's more than 30 stocks being sold. So that's definitely going to be a sample. All right, that is number 3. Let's check out number 4. And then we'll talk about the difference between qualitative and quantitative. Generally, qualitative is what they say it's more like labels. So it's more non-numeric, whereas quantitative usually asks how much or how many. That's always going to be numerical. And this one's just a very simple question, the difference between a sample and a population. A sample is a subset taken from the population. And that's what a lot of the semester is going to be based upon, is when we get to the probabilities, is taking samples to try to predict the population, because generally you can't sample the entire population because of time and money and cost and so forth. All right, that's 5. 6, we'll get into this later when we get into the probabilities. They ask the difference between discrete and continuous. Discrete is usually what they have finite or exact certain types of outcomes as discrete, whereas continuous is an infinite number of values. So they're going to say any values within some group. And the continuous variables usually start, I believe it's chapter 7. I think we do one chapter, I believe it's chapter 6, where we do like the binomials with the discrete. So that's coming later on. All right, on this one, we got a few situations we'll talk about. Where you got to choose, is it population or is it a sample? And you can see, I'll go through a couple of these. Statistics course is taught. They taught nearly 1,500 students over the last 5 years. You would like to know the average grade of the course. And of course, this is going to be, you're collecting from the population because it's just this one professor. Second one, part of a research project, you need to report the average profit as a percentage for the #1 ranked corporation in the Fortune 500. For each of the last 10 years. Again, this is going to be from the population. Again, there's only going to be, I think, 10 observations for over 10 years. Letter C, you're looking forward to graduation, and it says you're planning for your interviews. You'll need to know about each company's mission, profitability, products, and so forth. And so therefore, you're only looking at 5 companies. So this again is going to be from that. That's the population you're looking for. D, you're shopping for a new digital music player, such as an Apple Pod. You like to estimate the typical amount of memory for a digital music player. That's all players. And so we're just comparing the Apple Pod. So that's going to be a sample we're looking at. All righty, that is number 7. Let's check out number 8. And on this one, they want you to do a calculation. So let's read this. It says the Struthers Corporation employs more than 10,000 workers. And it says a sample notice. It says they take a sample of 300 U.S. workers and 120 would accept the transfer. On the basis of this finding, write a brief memo regarding all white-collar workers in this firm and their willingness to relocate. Well, essentially, the result is you're taking a sample, because it says a sample, and you take 120, divide by 300, that's going to give you 40%. So that's how you make your estimation on this one. Pretty easy. All right, 2 more. Again, you're doing a couple more calculations, and they give you that you have a no-hassle return policy. They took a sample again of 500, and it showed that 400 thought the policy was fair, 32 said it took too long, and so forth. It says on the basis, make an inference in the customer's reaction to the policy. So obviously you just take the 400, divide that by 500, gives you 80%. Too long is 32 over 500, gives you 6.4%. And at that point, you could just add these together and subtract that from 100 to get the plug, which is the no opinion, because generally that's, everything generally has to add up to 100%. All righty, one more. And this one, we're kind of back to looking at, first of all, is it qualitative or quantitative, and then back to the levels of measurement. And so league is qualitative, wins is quantitative, team salary quantitative, attendance, HR, home runs, batting average, ERA. Notice those are all quantitative. Those are all how much or how many. Those are all numerical, quantitative. And then the last one you can check out. Let me erase that. You can check out the levels of measurement. They're generally all going to be ratio measurements, except for the first one, which is the league, which is just nominal. All right, everyone, I believe that takes care of at least my comments on the Chapter 1 homework. Again, if you have any questions, please email me. All right.